You were a little girl? Like we haven't talked about like when you were how were you at school when you were or where did you go to school?
Okay, well, when I was a little girl, we lived about 2 blocks away from the school I went to, and I could walk both ways, and I did. The kindergarten was in one corner of the big block the school was on, and I enjoyed that because we have toys and we have music, a rhythm band, which was fun with little instruments. I always wanted to play the triangle, but I always wound up doing the sticks, which was not my favorite. And then I went on to the building nearby, which was first grade, all within this 1 block of school.
Do you know what the name of the school was? Do you remember?
I think it was just called Orange Avenue School.
Okay.
And when I got there, from kindergarten, I moved over to the other side of the building, which was first grade. Well, by the time I got to the first grade, I already knew how to read, and none of the other kids did. So eventually, they moved me on to second grade. Well, I was already the youngest kid in the class, and so when I went to second grade, I was even more young for the youngest one in the class. And it was a little hard to fit in because the kids were older. They did things that were slightly older, but it worked out all right in the end.
Around how many people do you think was in your class? Was it a big class or a small class?
Probably about between 20 and 23.
It's about normal.
For that day, I don't know. Nowadays, it would be wonderful to have a class of 23 because you really get around to all of them, and that would be wonderful. But I've had as many as 40 in my class in first grade.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough to get to the ones that need the extra help because there are so many of them.
Okay, so back to second grade.
Well, second grade, I got along all right. That was when I got to go down to the big assemblies, which are in the big assembly room downstairs. And that was fun. Because I was toddling along at the end of the line at that point. I grew so tall that I wound up to the end of the line, which is where you put tall ones, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, from then on, I just went on through the regular classes up to fourth grade. And then the Long Beach earthquake hit. And it really hit not only to Long Beach, but up to Monrovia. And I know I was standing by my mother in the kitchen by the gas stove watching her cook. And all of a sudden, everything started shaking like crazy. And my mother whipped the stove off and grabbed me and took me out into the side garden, which was away from the house. And I remember it was like walking on waves of water if you could do that, as the ground would drop away from under your feet and then would come up and hit you.
Mm.
And that went all the way until we got to the side yard, and then we stood there and watched the house go back and forth and waited for it to be over. Fortunately, the brick chimneys didn't come down. Unfortunately, all my mother's Howland china, which she treasured, was ruined because it was hanging in china cabinets that were built into the dining room. And the earthquake was a very, very big one. Later on, we went down to Long Beach where one of my mother's sisters lived, and you could see where walls had fallen out away from the building and just exposed the room all furnished like a doll's house,
Mm-hmm.
where you can see in one side. There was an awful lot of damage. The school that I went to was damaged. And so the next thing that happened was that we got moved over to Santa Fe School, which was across town and over the railroad tracks. And they put us two to a desk there, including within a class that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very crowded, and it lasted for a while. We'd walk home through an orange orchard, which, when it was hot, was very tempting because we would take an orange and eat it. And finally there was a sign at the corner of the orchard which said, "All people stealing oranges will be shot." So we decided maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. But that was an experience to live through. And we got home safely, of course. We didn't get shot. And then when it was time to move on to 6th grade, we went to temporary barracks that had been put on a vacant lot. And that was our classroom. It was about a block from the house on a vacant lot.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they had finished the junior high. I went through there to 6th grade there. And then I went on to junior high, which had been also demolished and was torn down. It was built, a new one was built on the other side of the main street. And we walked there because there really wasn't any busing at that time. Maybe for the kids far out, I never saw a school bus. I know Byron Turnbull, who was in my class, lived in an estate on the other side of the railroad tracks, but his mother would ride him over every day. She'd ride her horse, he'd ride his pony, and they'd ride all the way over to the school grounds. And that was fun. I liked horses. My dad was a big fan of horses. He bred them, trained them when he was young.
Did a lot of people ride horses to school?
No.
No, not many.
No, they was the only one.
Okay.
And his mother would bring him in, and when it was time for school to be over, she'd come and get him on the horse. And that lasted until we went to junior high. No, till the earthquake. Because at that point, we were in the temporary housing, and we just walked. And after they reconstructed the junior high, then we walked across town to get to the junior high, but that was not crowded because it was built to accommodate all the kids that qualified for junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And junior high was great. Like all kids at that age, we were struggling between being little kids and growing up toward being bigger kids. And so our classes were small. The buildings were small, the classes were the same size. And we were in junior high for 2 years, and that was a walk all the way across town every day. And junior high was fun. We also had our moments of rebellion. I remember once in one classroom, I can't remember the name of the teacher, we didn't like her very much because she was very strict. And one day we did a staged rebellion. And as somebody walked in with some note for the teacher or something, everybody knocked their books on the floor. And we only did that once. It was never done again. But that was probably the one time in my life that I ever was in a staged rebellion against something. I was a good little kid. I did what I was told, and I got fit into whatever was going on, as long as it wasn't too much trouble.
Okay.
So then we went from there to all the way across town to the other end of town to high school, where we walked again. It was about 6 blocks, maybe more.
Was it on a dirt road or was it a paved
It
road?
was all paved roads. When
Okay.
we cut through town, it was all paved. We cut through the main part of town to get to the junior high. And then from my house, it was just about 6 blocks of sidewalk to get down to the high school.
Do you remember the name of the high school?
It was MAD, or Monrovia Arcadia Duarte High School, because the 3 towns all fit into that one high school. And we stayed there right through high school until we graduated. And I took French 1 year and did fairly well with it. Struggled a great deal with algebra. I was not good at math. And geometry wasn't much better. My mother hired the teachers to coach me for a while, but I still wasn't. I could focus, but I couldn't do all the steps I was supposed to do. So I was those 2 years at high school, and by that time we were growing up some more, I found that the girls' bathroom, after I left high school, was the place to go to get all the late talk for the town and hear all the who's dating who and who's getting what and so forth. But I just went up to the library and read when it was break time. And I read Quo Vadis, and then I can't remember a couple of other books of history along that line. Good reading, I enjoyed the stories, but I didn't learn to mix and fit into groups like most kids do. I was shy.
Did you do any extracurricular activities or join any clubs or anything?
I was too shy. I didn't try.
What about sports?
Sports?
Sports.
Oh, sports. I played tennis, and I enjoyed it very much. I was fairly good at basketball because I was tall, but I didn't really play teams a lot. We did some competition tennis, but not much. And I had a good partner, so we did well when we played doubles. But those were the activities there.
How tall were you in high school?
Gosh, I don't know. I was 5'8" when I graduated high school.
Wow.
But I don't know how tall I was when I got there. I always was one of the taller kids in the class, if not the tallest. And it was a great disadvantage when I got interested in boys, because I was taller than the boys. The boys don't grow as fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't get invited on dates and things like that. And I really was so immature and shy that I don't know whether I could have handled it if I had gone.
You said something about playing with the neighborhood boys earlier. Like you.
Oh, that was easy because we just all played the same stuff.
Now, what did you play?
Well, when we could, we set up croquet in our backyard. My mother did not allow the kids in the house, but we could have croquet in the backyard. That was fun. And we went over to the vacant lot on the next block and played baseball. And then sometimes we'd play on our front lawn and just challenge each other with gymnastics like cartwheels and front flips and back flips and that sort of thing. And there was always jump rope, particularly in elementary when we were outside for sports. But I never really was a strong team member, and I think, again, my shyness kept me from trying to go to a lot of different things. I was fascinated by acting, and I was in a play in 5th grade, but that was the only time I ever did stage work or anything like it. I just went where I took French. I challenged once after school. I challenged the French teacher because I thought she was being mean to one of the other kids in class. And there was another teacher in the room at the time. And she read me down one side and down the other and sent me out. And I never did that again. But I do think she was unfair to him. So I got through high school and went on to junior high over on the other side of town.
And you said that
No, wait a minute, I didn't do that. I graduated,
Yeah.
period. And then I took a job for a while at the Arcadia Public Library as a page and worked while I was in high school. And I liked library work, but my counselor in high school said that I should go to college. I shouldn't continue to work. So my mother took them up on that. And so that ended my school life, except for college. I went to Whittier College, which I loved, small private liberal arts college. Too far away from town to walk. I lived in the dorms there. And I was in a sorority there, but I was president for a while.
what was the name of the sorority?
Oh gosh, where are high school kids when they're halfway through high school or a little further? No, college, I'm sorry. I was in my late teens.
Now, do you remember the name of the sorority?
No, I'd have to go look at my pen. I don't remember the name of it.
Okay.
But that was my first time of leadership in a group. And I think I did reasonably well, but I don't think I was the best one by any means, the best choice. So anyway, college was great. I started dating in college, and it was fun. And the fellow I liked to go with the most, Al, was a guy who had been in the Navy in underwater demolition. And he was a wonderful dancer.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, Al Fasir. That's all I know.
Okay.
His folks lived in Whittier, so he lived at home. I lived in a dorm. And we went out whenever we could.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an introduction to young adult life, although it wasn't sex. It was what we called necking. I don't know what they call it nowadays. But and dancing with him was great fun. He did a lot of good throw-outs and pull-ins and all sorts of things.
So swing dancing?
Hmm?
Swing dancing or?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
So that was my school life through high school now, and college a little bit. Not too long. That college went on to deciding to be a teacher and going into training for that.
So did you graduate with a bachelor's or
I got a bachelor's
in education or history?
in education for elementary school.
Okay.
And boy, I'm scanning through my life really fast now that I think about it. It's going a lot faster than it seemed at the time. Yeah, when I got to the end of the college, then it was time to look for a job. And I applied at several places and was interviewed at all of them. But I wanted to live in the mountains. So I applied at Big Bear Elementary. And I was accepted, and I taught 5th grade.
What city was Big Bear Elementary in?
It was in the school system of Big Bear. It was one school system.
Oh.
And my room was quite large, and it looked out over the lake. My kids had a wonderful time in the winter when it was snowing. And that's when I learned to wear ski pants and boots, because it was the only way to get through the snow. And sometimes the kids would let me ride on sleds with them, which was quite a ride in itself. But anyway, my mind has stopped at that point, so I don't know that I can go on.
Okay, I think we're good for today. Thank you.